You ever notice how people don't realize they're walking into a trap until it's already closed? They think they're in control. They think they're choosing. But no one ever sees the cage while it's being built. Not until the door locks behind them. It starts small little compromises, tiny lies, moments where you say, "It's fine," when your gut screams, "It's not." You tell yourself you're just adapting, but really you're surrendering, piece by piece, smile by smile, until one day you wake up and there's nothing left that's truly yours. Comfort, that's the sweetest lie ever told. It whispers to you like a lullaby, convincing you that peace means stillness, that quiet means safety. You stop chasing, stop questioning, stop growing, and you call it stability. But that's the trick, isn't it? Comfort doesn't come to soothe you, it comes to sedate you. It doesn't wrap you in warmth because you've earned rest. It does it so you'll forget the fire burning underneath your own potential. People don't notice how deadly comfort can be because it never announces itself as danger. It walks in smiling, promising calm, promising security. But behind that smile, it's already building the walls of your cage. You start with little things. You stop fighting the small battles because it's not worth it. You stop dreaming too big because real life doesn't work like that. You stop speaking up because no one listens anyway. You tell yourself you're just being practical, mature, realistic. But every time you trade discomfort for convenience, you hand over another piece of your freedom. Comfort doesn't steal it all at once. It takes it slowly, gently, until you forget you ever had it. You stop noticing the weight on your shoulders because you've gotten used to carrying it. You stop recognizing the walls because you've decorated them. You even start calling your cage home. People love to call it peace. But it's not peace if it costs you your voice. It's not rest if it makes you forget how to move. Comfort numbs you, softens you, makes you afraid of the very things that could set you free. You start avoiding challenges, avoiding change, avoiding the mirror, because you know what you'll see if you look too long. You'll see someone who settled, someone who stopped, someone who once had the fire, but traded it for a blanket. And you'll tell yourself it's fine, that this is how life is supposed to be. Safe, predictable, boring. But deep down, something inside you screams. Not loudly. Comfort doesn't allow loudness, but faintly like a heartbeat in the dark. It whispers that you were made for more, that this calm isn't real, that you're slipping away. You ignore it, of course. You drown it out with distractions, with routines, with noise. Because if you stopped and listened, even for a second, you'd realize the truth. You're not at peace. You're paralyzed. You're not resting. You're rusting. The worst part, the world rewards you for it. They'll call you responsible, stable, normal. They'll tell you you're doing the right thing by staying quiet, by staying put, by staying small. Society loves comfortable people. They don't cause problems. They don't question the system. They don't change anything. They just blend in, smile politely, and disappear into the rhythm of everyone else's expectations. And the longer you stay there, the more it starts to feel like choice instead of captivity. You'll tell yourself this is where you belong. You'll convince yourself that dreaming is childish, that risk is foolish, that fighting back is madness. Comfort doesn't kill dreams violently. It starves them, slowly, silently. It convinces you to wait until the time is right, but that time never comes. It tells you to be grateful for what you have, but gratitude becomes an excuse for fear. You start mistaking contentment for surrender, and once you cross that line, it's over. You lose your hunger. You lose your curiosity. You lose the spark that made you different in the first place. And then, when life finally tries to shake you awake, you'll resist it. You'll fight to stay asleep because you've grown addicted to the illusion of safety. That's what comfort does best. It turns you into your own warden. You no longer need someone to trap you because you've learned how to lock the door yourself. You stop reaching for more because reaching feels risky. You stop questioning because questions bring discomfort. You stop caring because caring requires courage, and you convince yourself that stillness is peace when really it's surrender. You've built a quiet little prison and called it happiness. But somewhere deep down, you know it's not real. You feel it when you wake up and your chest feels heavy for no reason. You feel it when you catch yourself staring at nothing, wondering when your life stopped being yours. You feel it when you smile out of habit instead of joy. That's not peace. That's the echo of what's been buried alive inside you. Comfort buried your ambition, your purpose, your fire, and left behind a hollow version of who you were meant to be. And the scariest part, you'll defend that comfort like it's sacred. You'll fight for it, protect it, justify it, because it's all you know now. It's familiar, and familiarity feels safer than freedom. People don't fear death as much as they fear change. And comfort knows that. That's how it wins. It doesn't need chains or bars. It just needs your willingness to stay the same. It keeps you trapped not by force, but by your own desire to never feel discomfort again. You'll say you're happy. You'll say you're fine. And maybe you'll even believe it. But deep inside, something will always whisper the truth. You're not living, you're hiding. Fear never comes dressed as fear. It doesn't walk in screaming or waving a red flag. No, it's smarter than that. It wears a disguise. Something that feels rational, safe, even wise. It whispers in your ear with a voice that sounds like your own, saying things like, "Be careful, not now, maybe later." And you listen, because fear doesn't tell you not to move. It convinces you that standing still is the smart choice. It calls itself logic. It calls itself caution. But make no mistake, it's fear. Always has been, always will be. It starts small. You tell yourself you'll take the risk when you're more ready, when things are more stable, when the timing's right. But that day never comes. Because fear always finds a reason, doesn't it? It tells you to wait until the perfect moment, knowing damn well perfection doesn't exist. It wants you to hesitate. It feeds on hesitation. Every second you delay, it grows stronger, digging deeper into your mind until it becomes the voice of reason itself. You start mistaking fear for wisdom, paralysis for patience, and suddenly, your dreams start rotting in the name of being realistic. Fear doesn't need to scream to control you. It only needs to whisper, just enough to make you doubt yourself. That's the trick. It doesn't take your power by force. It convinces you to give it away. You start questioning your instincts, second, guessing your ideas, editing your own courage before the world ever sees it. You become your own jailer, building walls around your potential with words like, what if, and maybe not. And before you know it, you're not protecting yourself anymore. You're protecting your fear. You tell yourself it's just self-preservation, that you're being responsible. But responsibility without courage is just fear in a suit. You plan, you prepare, you overthink. You analyze every angle until all that's left is the illusion of control. Fear loves control. It wants you to believe that if you calculate every outcome, you can avoid pain, failure, embarrassment. But in reality, all you're doing is avoiding life, because every great thing you could ever want lives on the other side of uncertainty. And fear will do everything it can to keep you from crossing that line. You ever notice how fear always talks about loss? It never tells you what you might gain. It keeps your mind trapped in what could go wrong, never what could go right. It plays the same movie over and over again. Failure, rejection, humiliation. It convinces you that safety is survival. But survival without purpose is just a slower kind of death. You breathe, you exist, but you don't live. Fear doesn't just stop you from falling. It stops you from flying. And the cruel part, fear's logic always sounds right. It always makes sense in the moment. Because it's not some shadow lurking in the dark. It's disguised as your best friend. It tells you it's protecting you, but really it's protecting itself. It doesn't want to die, and for it to live, you have to stay small. You have to keep pretending that comfort equals safety, that uncertainty equals danger. But that's the illusion. It keeps you busy running from things that were never meant to hurt you in the first place. Fear doesn't want you to see how much you've already survived. It doesn't want you to remember the moments you were terrified and did it anyway. It hides those memories. Because if you remembered your strength, you wouldn't listen to it anymore. You'd recognize the truth, that fear doesn't predict the future. It only reflects your wounds. It's not warning you about what's coming. It's reminding you of what already broke you once. But you're not that same person anymore, are you? You've healed, hardened, grown. Fear just hasn't caught up yet. So it keeps talking. Keeps spinning stories about what could happen if you step too far. Speak too loud, dream too big. It paints failure in vivid colors, but it forgets one thing. You've already failed before, and you survived it. You've already been hurt, and you kept going. You've already lost things you thought you couldn't live without, and yet, here you are. That's what fear can't understand. You're still standing. You always were. You just forgot what that meant. The more you listen to fear, the more logical it sounds. The less you move, the safer you feel. But safety and stillness aren't the same. One protects you, the other traps you. Fear doesn't stop bad things from happening. It just stops good things from ever beginning. It tricks you into living half a life, calling it peace. But peace doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from facing it. That's what fear never wants you to realize. Once you face it, it loses its power. So it hides behind reason, behind excuses, behind the illusion of waiting for the right time. It tells you you're not ready because it knows you'll never feel ready. It tells you to stay where it's safe because it knows nothing grows there. It tells you that logic will protect you. But logic without courage is just another kind of fear. And fear will always sound smart right up until the moment you realize it's been keeping you small all along. Silence, it starts as peace and ends as poison. At first, it feels good, almost holy. You tell yourself you're being mature, that you're just keeping things calm, that speaking up won't change anything anyway. So, you swallow your truth. You hold your breath. You hide your fire. And the world claps for you, because silence makes people comfortable. They don't want your truth. They want your compliance. So, you give it to them. You tell yourself you're protecting the peace, but really, you're burying yourself alive. You ever notice how silence feels different when you're lying to yourself? It's heavy, isn't it? It presses down on your chest until breathing feels like work. You smile when you want to scream. You nod when you want to walk away. You laugh at things that break you inside. And every time you stay quiet, something inside you dies just a little bit more. Not all at once. No, silence doesn't kill fast. It takes its time. It drains the color out of your voice, one unspoken word at a time. The funny part is, silence disguises itself as strength. People call it restraint, composure, control. They don't see the war behind your calm face. They don't see the storm you're swallowing. They think you're fine because you don't complain. But the ones who never make noise are often the ones screaming the loudest on the inside. Silence becomes a cage you decorate with fake smiles and polite nods. It looks peaceful, but it's not peace. It's pressure. It's pretending. The world teaches you early that silence keeps you safe. Don't speak up. People won't like you. Don't question. People won't trust you. Don't feel too much. Don't want too much. Don't be too much. So, you learn to shrink. You learn to silence yourself before anyone else has to. You turn your pain into jokes. You turn your opinions into secrets. You build walls made of words you never said. And before you know it, your silence becomes your identity. But here's the truth no one tells you. Silence always demands a sacrifice. It eats away at your confidence, your courage, your clarity. It convinces you that keeping quiet is easier, that speaking up will only make things worse. And sometimes, maybe it does. But every time you choose silence over truth, you reinforce the lie that your voice doesn't matter, that you don't matter. And once you start believing that, it's over. You don't need a cage anymore. You'll build one yourself. Silence isn't always peace. It's often fear dressed in calm. You keep quiet not because you've made peace with the world, but because you're afraid of losing it. You're afraid of the consequences that come with honesty. You're afraid that if people knew what you really think, what you really feel, they'd leave. So you stay silent. You call it self-control, but really, it's self-erasure. You stop saying what you mean, and after a while, you forget what you mean at all. Silence turns you into a stranger to yourself. You start censoring your thoughts before they even reach your lips. You start doubting your right to speak. You start telling yourself that your pain isn't valid, that your anger isn't justified, that your story doesn't deserve to be told. You start mistaking invisibility for safety, and that's how silence wins. It doesn't fight you. It convinces you to disappear quietly. But silence doesn't just protect you. It protects the very things that hurt you. It shields the abuser. It hides the injustice. It lets the lies grow roots. Every time you stay quiet, you feed the thing that's killing you. Because silence isn't neutral. It's agreement. It's permission. It's surrender. And the more you give it, the more it takes until you wake up one day realizing you've been living someone else's life in your own skin. And you'll tell yourself it's fine. You'll convince yourself that silence is noble, that peace is better than confrontation. You'll bury your truth so deep that even you can't find it anymore. You'll become addicted to the calm, even if it's fake, even if it costs you everything real, because silence feels safe, and safety is seductive. But there's a price for peace that isn't built on truth. It's called suffocation. You'll feel it in the moments when you're alone. That pressure in your chest that doesn't go away. That ache in your throat like something's trying to escape but can't. That's your truth, clawing at the walls of your silence. It's the part of you that refuses to die quietly. The part that remembers what your voice sounds like. But the longer you stay silent, the quieter it becomes, until eventually you stop hearing it altogether. And that's when the real trap sets in. Because once silence becomes normal, breaking it feels wrong. You start mistaking your own truth for noise. You start thinking maybe you're overreacting. Maybe you're too sensitive. Maybe it's better this way. That's how people lose themselves. Not through chaos, but through quiet. The kind of quiet that pretends to protect you while it slowly drains your soul. The silence you thought would save you becomes the prison you can't escape. You wear it like armor, but it's really a coffin. Because silence doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you small. And it doesn't matter how beautiful your prison is. It's still a prison. The walls are made of every truth you were too afraid to speak. Every boundary you were too scared to set. Every scream you swallowed for the sake of being understood. And the longer you live there, the more you forget what freedom even sounds like. People always think traps look obvious. Chains, cages, bars. Something that screams danger. But the real traps, The ones that ruin lives, they look like comfort. They sound like logic. They whisper sweet little things in your ear until you stop questioning and start accepting. That's how they catch you. Not with force, but with familiarity. They don't tie you down, they convince you not to move. And that's the trick. That's how you become stuck, by thinking you're safe. You ever notice how the most dangerous places are the ones that feel peaceful? The job that drains your soul but pays the bills. The relationship that hurts you but isn't that bad. The environment that clips your wings but tells you it's for your own good. That's how they do it. They trap you in comfort. You stop dreaming because dreaming feels like risk. You stop fighting because fighting feels exhausting. So you stay. You call it stability. You call it maturity. But deep down, you know what it is. It's fear. Fear that if you leave, you'll lose everything you've built. Fear that maybe you won't find something better. Fear that maybe this is as good as it gets. So you stay in the cage and tell yourself it's home. You decorate it. You justify it. You convince yourself it's where you belong. And when anyone tries to wake you up, you get angry at them because they're threatening the illusion you worked so hard to believe. That's how traps work. They don't need to lock you in. They just need to make you stop wanting out. They whisper that it's too late to change, that you've come too far to start over, that you should just accept things the way they are. And you believe it because comfort dulls your instincts. It makes you forget what freedom feels like. It replaces your hunger with habit, and slowly, the fire inside you starts to fade. The real danger isn't that you're stuck. It's that you think you're choosing to stay. You tell yourself you're being smart, that you're being patient. That timing is everything. But time doesn't save people who've stopped moving. It buries them. The longer you wait, the deeper the roots of your fear grow. And soon, you're not just trapped. You're loyal to your trap. You defend it. You protect it. You become its guardian, not its prisoner. And maybe that's the most tragic part. How people fall in love with their own cages. They get so used to being limited that freedom starts to look like chaos. They start calling their pain normal. They laugh at their own suffering like it's just part of life. They think enduring misery is strength. But it's not strength. It's surrender. A silent, smiling surrender to everything that's killing them from the inside out. The world is full of invisible traps like that. They come disguised as good intentions. The friend who keeps you small because they're scared you'll outgrow them. The parent who tells you to be realistic when you talk about your dreams. The system that rewards obedience and punishes originality. You think you're choosing your path, but the truth is, they've already built it for you. You're just walking it, believing it's your own. You know what's funny? Most people don't even realize they're trapped until it's too late. They wake up one day and wonder why their reflection looks so tired, why their laughter sounds so empty, why they feel so hollow, even when everything looks fine. It's because the soul knows when it's been silenced. It knows when it's being suffocated by routine. It knows when it's been bribed into submission by comfort. The worst trap isn't the one that locks your body. It's the one that chains your mind. The one that convinces you to doubt your own instincts. The one that makes you second guess the voice that says, something isn't right. You know that feeling, that small, unsettling whisper inside you that keeps trying to warn you. You silence it. You call it anxiety. You call it overthinking. But it's not paranoia. It's awareness. It's the part of you that still remembers what freedom feels like. But the world doesn't like people who listen to that voice. It calls them crazy, rebellious, ungrateful. Because free people can't be controlled. They can't be manipulated. They don't follow rules that don't make sense. So, the world distracts you instead. It keeps you busy. It feeds you noise. Social media, fake news, gossip, comparison. It gives you 1,000 little things to care about. So you never stop to think about the one thing that actually matters. Are you free? That's the cruel joke of it all. People aren't trapped because they're weak. They're trapped because they're distracted. They're chasing validation, comfort, approval, all while the clock ticks and their spirit grows quieter. You want to know the real trap. It's believing that one day, when things are perfect, you'll finally start living. That's the lie that ruins lives, because that perfect day never comes. The conditions never align. The permission never arrives. You just keep waiting, thinking the timing isn't right, when in truth, you were supposed to move long ago. And then, the silence sets in. The one that feels too familiar. The one where you stop questioning and just accept. The one where you laugh at your own pain because pretending feels easier than changing. That's how the trap wins. Not with force, but with exhaustion. It waits for you to stop caring, to stop believing that things could be different. Because once you stop believing, you stop trying. And once you stop trying, they don't have to trap you anymore. You'll stay right where you are, guarding your own prison, calling it peace.